Is there someone in your family you're especially close to? For me, an illegitimate child, it was always my younger sister, the spitting image of our mother. When she got married, I was incredibly jealous of my brother-in-law. The protagonist of today's story felt the same way. It's a story about a Russian girl with a younger sister she raised herself, taking the place of their taciturn father and the mother who abandoned them. She lived in constant fear of the day her sister would leave her. So when her sister started dating an American man 10 years her senior, she flew into a rage and demanded they break up immediately. And yet, she was the one who ended up spending the night with that same American man when he came to their home to ask for permission to date her sister. The next morning, she was in shock. Let's see what happens next. A small industrial city in Russia, where the sky was perpetually stained with factory smoke, was my home. Ours was the last apartment on the 17th floor, lost among the grey monolithic housing blocks. The view from our window was always the same. Stark white snow, ash-colored factories, and a distant forest of pine trees. My name is Natasha and I'm 26 years old. I live with my sister Alisa. She's 6 years younger than me, just turned 20, a brilliant girl who recently got into university. We share a bond so tight, it feels like nothing could ever come between us. But I have always lived with the fear that one day that bond would break. My father was a coarse, silent man who worked at a steel mill. His hands were permanently blackened with soot, and his beard was never trimmed. His routine was to come home, collapse on the sofa, take a swig of vodka, and fall asleep in front of the television. Whenever my mother would say, "Natasha, you're just like your father," I would silently rebel. I didn't want to be like him. But as time went on, I found myself adopting his stoic expression and stubbornness without even realizing it. The year Alisa turned 12, during an unusually harsh winter, my life changed forever. My mother, unable to bear her life any longer, left us. We woke up to find her closet empty, with only a note on the kitchen table. "I can't live like this anymore. I'm sorry." "Where did Mama go?" Alisa asked, rubbing her eyes. I had no answer. That night, my father drank more vodka than usual. From the next day on, he never mentioned her again. He didn't even try to find her, acting as if she had never existed. From that day forward, I took on all the household responsibilities. At 18, I would wake up early to take Alisa to school, work an 8-hour shift at the factory, and come home to make dinner. Laundry, cleaning, shopping, it all fell to me. Sometimes I felt on the verge of collapse, but one look at Alisa's innocent eyes gave me the strength to carry on. "Natasha, the teacher said my drawing was the best in the class today." Looking at the picture Alisa proudly showed me, my heart ached, thinking of all the moments our mother was missing. But I would just stroke her hair, my expression unchanged, and say, "That's wonderful. Our Alisa is so talented." Time passed mercilessly. I grew tougher, more adept at hiding my emotions. At the factory, I worked as hard as any man. The calluses on my hands grew thicker, like a map of my life. My father became a ghost in our home, his life a repeating cycle of work, drink, and sleep. Sometimes, seeing the emptiness in his eyes, I understood why my mother had left. But I quickly pushed the thought away. We only had each other. The winter Alisa was 16, our father left us too. He came home from his shift as usual, lay down on the sofa and never woke up. A massive heart attack. It was only then that I learned he had a long-standing heart condition he knew about but never treated. The funeral was cold and quiet. A few of his co-workers came to offer condolences, but that was all. Alisa didn't cry. She just stared at his coffin with a vacant expression. I didn't cry either. Perhaps we had already lost our father long ago. That night, after everything was settled, Alisa came into my room. "Natasha," she said, "it's just the two of us now." Hearing those words, I broke down for the first time. I held her tight and sobbed. We slept in the same bed that night, and the next morning I resolved to be even stronger. After His death, I became even more attached to my sister. I needed to know everything about her life, her grades, her friends, her hobbies, as if she were my entire world. And Alisa was my hope and my future. You worry too much, she would often say, but I couldn't help it. I was terrified that if I let my guard down for a second, she would disappear too. Fortunately, Alisa was an excellent student. Her teachers praised her talent, and she was accepted into university without any trouble. I was immensely grateful when she turned down offers from schools in Moscow to attend the best university in our city. I didn't want her to go far away. I knew it was selfish, but I was relieved to have her close. But once she started university, Alisa began to change. She came home late some nights and spent weekends at the library or with friends. At first, I was understanding. University life was new and exciting, but I felt her slipping away. "Why are you so late?" I'd ask. "Natasha, I'm an adult," she would reply, a hint of irritation in her voice. "Do I have to report everything to you?" Her words were like a knife to my heart, but my face remained a mask. I know, I was just worried. My anxiety grew. I could feel Alisa craving freedom. I spent sleepless nights imagining she would leave me one day. The thought of being alone in that empty apartment was suffocating. One day, on a day off from the factory, I went to the university to find her. She usually answered my texts immediately, but that day I couldn't reach her. My calls went unanswered. Worried, I wandered around campus until I spotted her in the distance. I watched as she glanced at her phone, ignored the call, and hurried off with her backpack. I followed her without a second thought. She left the campus and walked to a nearby coffee shop where a man was waiting for her. Through the glass window, I saw them sitting together, looking comfortable. Alisa was beaming, and the man gazed at her with a gentle expression. It was a look of pure happiness I had never seen on her face before. In that moment, my heart shattered. This was a side of Alisa I had never seen, an expression she never showed me. A surge of rage washed over me, betrayal, jealousy, and fear all at once. I had to know what they were talking about and who he was. I pushed open the door to the cafe, my legs trembling. Alisa's face went pale. The man across from her stood up in surprise. He was tall, dressed in a neat button-down shirt. He was clearly not from around here, a foreigner. "Natasha, what are you doing here?" Alisa asked, her voice panicked. I ignored her and stared at the man. My heart was pounding, my palms sweating. "Who are you?" I demanded coldly. The man gave a polite nod. He introduced himself in halting Russian. "Hello, my name is Michael. It's a pleasure to meet Alisa's sister." His Russian was broken but respectful. It didn't matter. The fact that my sister was secretly dating a man, an older foreign man, was too much to bear. Alisa grabbed my arm reassuringly. "Natasha, this is Michael. He's an American engineer sent here on assignment from a big US company. He's 30 years old." 30? My voice shot up. "Are you kidding me? What are you doing with a man 10 years older than you?" Alisa was only 20, still a student. The other customers in the cafe turned to stare. Michael looked flustered but tried to handle the situation calmly. "Please let me explain," he started, but I wasn't listening. I grabbed Alisa's wrist and pulled her out of the shop. "Natasha, don't do this," she protested, but I was beyond reason. The cold wind hit my face, my mind in turmoil. I didn't let go until we reached the car. Her eyes were filled with tears of anger and shock. "Why would you do that? It was so embarrassing." "You're the one who should be embarrassed. Secretly dating a foreigner, and with such a huge age gap." My voice trembled with fear and a sense of betrayal. In the car, Alisa told me everything. Michael had been presenting at a job fair about opportunities with American companies. She had been instantly smitten and approached him first, feigning interest in his company to get to know him. They had met a few times after that and were drawn to each other. I was shocked to learn they had been seeing each other for 3 months. "He's a good person, Natasha. Just give him a chance," Alisa pleaded. But I wasn't ready to listen. As we neared our apartment building, the car sputtered and died. Damn it, I cursed, slamming my fist on the steering wheel. It felt like the entire day was against me. We ended up pushing the car into a nearby garage. I was drenched in sweat, and the walk home was shrouded in a heavy silence. Back at home, the argument continued. Alyssa passionately defended Michael's good qualities while I fiercely opposed their relationship. I told her she needed to focus on her studies, but the truth was, I was terrified of losing her. If she left with this man for America, I would be completely alone. That night, Alyssa cried herself to sleep in her room. I sat alone at the kitchen table, downing a glass of vodka. I hated that I was becoming like my father, but I didn't know what else to do. Alcohol seemed like the only way to numb the pain. 2 days later, we had an unexpected visitor. When I opened the door, Michael was standing there, holding a small gift box and a bouquet of flowers. I was so surprised I almost slammed the door in his face, but he quickly put his foot in the way. Please, just 5 minutes. I need to talk to you. His sincere gaze made me hesitate. Finally, I let him in. Alyssa wasn't back from her classes yet. Michael stepped into the living room and looked around. I could see the slight surprise on his face at our worn-out furniture and peeling wallpaper, but he politely said nothing. I would like your permission to be with Alyssa, he said, getting straight to the point. I want to prove that my intentions are honorable. You're 30, aren't you? My sister is 20, but he didn't back down. I admit there's an age difference, but my feelings for her are real. I plan to wait until she graduates. I can extend my work assignment here. I have no intention of getting in the way of her dreams. His words sounded rehearsed, but I could sense his sincerity. He went on to explain his plan. He would stay in Russia until Alyssa finished her degree, and then they would move to America together. My anger flared again. Take my sister to America? Absolutely not. Just as I was about to argue, the apartment went dark. A power outage. It was a common occurrence in our old building, but the timing was infuriating. Oh, the power's out? Michael said calmly. He took out his phone and turned on the flashlight. Where's the fuse box? I pointed down the hall, and he went to check it without hesitation. He returned a few minutes later, the apartment still dark. Looks like a blown fuse. It's fine. I'll call an electrician tomorrow. You can go now. I don't want to talk anymore today, I said dismissively. Just then, Alyssa came home. Seeing her look from me to Michael, I felt the situation spiraling out of control. Leave in the morning, I told him coldly and retreated to my room. The next morning, I was awakened by a loud noise. I looked out the window to see our car running, with Michael wiping his hands as he stepped away from the engine. How did you do that? I asked when he came back inside. He gave a sheepish smile. My dad's a mechanic. I picked up a thing or two growing up. His simple answer stirred something in me. The fact that he learned a practical skill from his father and valued it was both foreign and enviable. It was then I noticed that several things in our apartment had been fixed. The lights were on, and other broken items I had long ignored were now working perfectly. By noon, he had gone to the local market and prepared a simple meal. Not a Russian dish, but a hearty homemade American chili. For the first time in a long time, I ate a meal someone else had cooked for me, and I felt a strange sense of comfort. Are you really serious about Alyssa? I asked during the meal. I saw the conviction in his eyes. Yes, very serious. Alyssa is special. Her intelligence, her determination, her strength. I know she grew up in a difficult environment, but she's maintained such a positive outlook. I admire that deeply. His words moved me. I hadn't expected him to understand her so well. Most Russian men I knew were proud and not family-oriented. Men like my father who never showed emotion or tried to understand others. I thought that might have been why my mother left. If you go back to America, what happens to Alyssa? I asked, my voice laced with worry. Even if I have to go back first, I will absolutely return for her. But if possible, I'd like you to come with us. he said seriously. The three of us could start over. His words brought tears to my eyes. I tried to hold them back, but my emotions overwhelmed me. I realized then how long I had been carrying everything on my own, how exhausted I was. And for the first time, someone was extending a hand to me. "I need some air," I mumbled, rushing outside to cry alone behind the apartment building. After a long cry, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. When I went back inside, Michael was quietly washing the dishes. That afternoon, Alisa came home from class. The look of surprise on her face when she saw Michael was still there is etched in my memory. She asked what had happened, and Michael explained all the things he had fixed. "Natasha, what's going on?" Alisa asked cautiously. I took a deep breath. "Your boyfriend seems like a good man," I finally said. A radiant smile spread across Alisa's face. "Really? So does that mean we can be together?" Her voice was filled with joy. "Fine, but on two conditions. Don't let it affect your studies. And no more keeping important things from me," I said firmly. Alisa ran over and hugged me tightly. That evening, the three of us had dinner together. It was the first time our home had been filled with laughter in a very long time. After that, Michael became a regular visitor. He fixed things around the apartment and cooked delicious meals. Sometimes, while Alisa was studying, he would sit and have tea with me, telling me about American culture. Listening to his stories, I started to feel a flicker of interest in this faraway country. My initial fear of losing Alisa slowly faded, replaced by a warmth as if my family had grown. Michael was responsible, reliable, and thoughtful, the complete opposite of my father. What could I even do in America? I asked him one day. Michael spoke seriously about different possibilities, offering practical advice based on my strengths and interests. I began to think that moving to the United States might not be such an impossible dream. A new life, a fresh start, it was a terrifying but thrilling prospect. Our daily life began to change. Michael, the man I once saw as an intruder, had become an essential part of our lives. And for the first time, I started to think about my own happiness, not just my sister's. I didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. I wasn't alone anymore. And that in itself was a profound change. It was during this time, when Michael had been coming around long enough to feel like family, that the doorbell rang one afternoon. When I opened it, Michael was standing there with another man I didn't recognize. He wasn't as tall as Michael, but he had an impressive air about him, with sharp eyes and stylish clothes. "Natasha, this is my friend, Leo," Michael introduced him. "He runs a fashion brand back in the States." The man gave me a polite nod. Curious, I invited them into the living room. Alisa was at school. As I went to make tea, I could hear them talking in English, and I caught them glancing in my direction a few times. When I returned with the tea, Michael said, "Leo has a proposition for you." I looked at them skeptically, wondering what kind of proposition someone like him could have for me. Leo's Russian wasn't fluent, but with Michael helping to translate, he began to explain. "I actually came to Russia for a photo shoot, using some of the traditional architecture as a backdrop, but Michael showed me a photo of you, and your look is perfect for my brand's concept." He pulled out a tablet and showed me some images. The clothes were simple yet elegant, a blend of modern design with classic Russian elements. "You want me to be a model?" I asked in disbelief. He nodded. "Yes, I'd like to do a test shoot. Your natural beauty would be a perfect fit for the brand." At first, I thought it was a joke. Me, a model? I had never imagined such a thing. My entire life had been spent working in a factory, and I was always awkward in front of a camera. But Leo was serious. Michael encouraged me, saying it was a great opportunity. "Give it a try, Natasha. I think you'd be amazing." Finally, driven by a mix of curiosity and financial need, I agreed to the test shoot. The factory work was grueling, and a better source of income was hard to refuse. And honestly, the fact that someone was offering me a chance like this felt incredible. The test shoot was a week later. That morning, I nearly backed out several times, wondering if I should just go to the factory instead. But I went to the location. The studio Leo rented was smaller than I expected but had an artistic atmosphere. A hairstylist and makeup artist greeted me. As I sat in front of the mirror, watching my face transform, I felt like I was in a dream. My hair, usually tied back in a tight bun, was styled in soft waves, and makeup made my eyes look larger. I was stunned by this version of myself I had never seen. When I changed into the first outfit and stepped onto the set, the faces of Leo and his team lit up. "Perfect," Leo said. At first, I was terribly awkward in front of the camera, unsure where to put my hands or what expression to make. But Leo was patient, guiding me gently. "Just be yourself. Be natural." After a few hours, Leo showed me the photos on his laptop. I couldn't believe my eyes. Was that really me in the pictures? The woman in the photos looked confident and beautiful. The calloused hands and tired eyes of the factory worker had vanished. "Do you like them?" Leo asked. I nodded, speechless. He smiled and made his offer. "I'd like to sign you to an exclusive 1-year contract. The terms would be..." The contract he presented offered far better terms than I could have imagined. It was enough money for me to quit my job at the factory. When I got home and told Aliza, she was ecstatic. "You're going to be a model? This is amazing, Natasha," she exclaimed, hugging me tightly. I was still in a state of shock, but I felt this opportunity could change my life. I signed the contract and started my new job in earnest. The first few weeks were a difficult adjustment. The stress of being in front of the camera, the new environment, the sudden change in my daily routine, it was all foreign to me. But Leo was a patient and encouraging guide. "Be confident," he would say. "You are truly special." With his support, my confidence grew. As we continued shooting, I became more comfortable in front of the lens, discovering new sides of myself. We traveled across Russia for photo shoots, from the palaces of St. Petersburg and Moscow's Red Square to the snowy landscapes of Siberia. Seeing places I had never been before made me realize how vast and beautiful the world was. I had never imagined a life so varied outside the factory walls. During our work, I got to know Leo as a man of great passion and artistic vision. He genuinely appreciated the presence I had on camera, and the way he looked at me made me feel special, a feeling I had never experienced before. About 2 or 3 months in, Leo brought up something significant. "I want to do a shoot in the United States. I'm preparing a new collection, and I need the modern backdrop of New York City." His words made me hesitate. America felt so far away, so alien. More than anything, I worried about leaving Aliza alone. "What about Aliza? Will she be okay without me?" I asked anxiously. Leo smiled. "Michael will take good care of her, and you can come back as soon as the shoot is over. I'll take full responsibility for your well-being." Michael also reassured me. "I'll look after Aliza. Don't worry. You should have this new experience, Natasha." Aliza wanted me to go too. "You have to go, Natasha. Once I graduate, I'll come join you in America." In the end, I decided to go. Flying on an airplane for the first time to a country on the other side of the world was a mix of excitement and fear. As I watched Russia shrink below me from the plane window, I had a feeling this decision would change my life completely. When I arrived in New York City, I was overwhelmed by its glamour and vibrant energy. It was a world away from my grey industrial hometown. The towering skyscrapers, the streets dazzling with light even at night, the foreign language and food, it was all new and exhilarating. Leo had arranged everything for me to live comfortably: a modern apartment, a local guide, and a detailed schedule. On set, he was a demanding director, but outside of work, he was a warm companion. He showed me every corner of New York, from the tree-lined paths of Central Park to the iconic Brooklyn Bridge and the local eateries only New Yorkers knew about. "This is a classic New York slice," he said, handing me a paper plate. I took my first bite of American pizza. It was different but delicious. Leo looked pleased by my reaction. A little different from Russian food, right? I nodded and smiled. Everything was different, but the differences were becoming more and more appealing. The photo shoot took longer than planned. A 2-week schedule stretched into a month, then 2. I video called Alisa every day to stave off the homesickness. She seemed happy, telling me about her studies and her dates with Michael. She was doing better than I had worried. One night, as we were walking along the East River, Leo suddenly stopped. "Natasha, I'm just going to say it," he began. His serious expression made my heart pound. "At first, I was only interested in you as a model. But it's different now. I've come to admire everything about you as a person." His confession left me stunned. Love was something I had no experience with. I had always been too busy taking care of Alisa and surviving. But in the time I had spent with Leo, his kindness and respect had slowly opened my heart. "I like you too," I managed to say, summoning all my courage. In that moment, his gaze deepened. Under the glittering lights of the Manhattan skyline, he gently took my hand. It was so warm. And just like that, we were a couple. As my contract was nearing its end, Leo asked me to extend it. "I want you to stay in New York. I want to start a new project with you." I hesitated, but after talking to Alisa, I decided to stay. My sister was even happier than I was. "If you're happy there, you should stay, Natasha. I'll come over as soon as I graduate." Time passed, and I gradually adapted to life in America. I slowly learned the difficult English language and grew accustomed to the food and culture. My relationship with Leo deepened. He understood my past and my scars, and I supported his dreams and passions. On set, we were professionals, but in our personal time, we were a normal couple. We rode bikes in Central Park, shopped at weekend markets, and occasionally visited his parents upstate. At first, I was nervous about the language and cultural barriers, but his family welcomed me with open arms. On a beautiful autumn day in New York, Leo proposed. "Natasha, will you marry me?" I hesitated for only a second before nodding enthusiastically. We moved in together into an apartment overlooking the park. It was a life completely different from the one I had known in Russia. There were no more shifts in a cold, dark factory. Instead, I had someone who greeted me warmly every morning. For the first time, I could lean on someone and experience the joy of making breakfast for the person I loved. Sometimes I missed my home in Russia, the memories with Alisa, the familiar scents and sounds. But seeing my sister's smiling face on video calls and knowing she was okay brought me peace. I was starting a new life with Leo in America. In my second year in New York, Alisa finally graduated. We had stayed in touch through video calls and short visits, but I was overjoyed to hear she was finally moving to America. Waiting for her at the airport, my heart pounded with a mix of excitement and nervousness. When I saw her, she looked so much more mature. Her hair was cut short, and she walked with a new confidence as she ran toward me. We hugged tightly, making up for lost time. Michael was with her, gently handling her luggage, his affection for her as clear as ever. Alisa adapted quickly to her new life in the US. She found a job as a translator, putting the English skills she had been learning to good use, and she and Michael began planning their wedding. Seeing them together, I knew that coming here had been the right decision. Both of us were finding our happiness in a new country. Then one night, Alisa made a surprising suggestion. "Natasha, we need to figure out the wedding order." I was taken aback. "The wedding order? Why does that matter?" Alisa looked serious. "In America, it's not a strict rule, but in many traditional families, it's considered proper for the older sister to marry first. It's about respect. Michael's parents might be concerned about it." I was stunned. I had never discussed marriage specifics with Leo. We were in love, of course, but marriage was a different step. "Alisa, this is so sudden." But Alisa was firm. "If you don't go first, I can't. It's just the right way to do things." I spent a lot of time thinking about it, wondering how to bring this up with Leo. As fate would have it, a few days later, Leo planned a special dinner. He took me to an elegant restaurant with a panoramic view of the city. We sipped wine and talked in the quiet romantic atmosphere. Natasha, my life has completely changed since I met you, Leo said, his eyes full of sincerity. Then he stood up and knelt on one knee beside me. He took a small box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a sparkling diamond ring. Will you marry me? In that instant, all my worries vanished. Tears streamed down my face, and I was so overwhelmed with emotion I couldn't speak. But I nodded and held out my hand. Leo smiled joyfully and slipped the ring on my finger as applause erupted from the surrounding tables. That night, I shared the happy news with Alyssa. She celebrated as if it were her own engagement. Natasha, congratulations! Now we can both build our new families here in America. Her genuine happiness meant the world to me. The wedding preparations moved quickly. Leo's parents, initially worried about having a foreign daughter-in-law, welcomed me warmly after meeting me. His mother was especially delighted when I cooked Russian dishes for her. My daughter-in-law is such a good cook, she would say, warming my heart. My wedding day was an unforgettable, emotional blur. As I walked down the aisle in a white dress toward Leo, I felt as if all the wounds of my past were finally healing. Alyssa stood by my side as my maid of honor, her eyes glistening with tears. I could see the pride and happiness in her gaze. Married life was a new challenge. We navigated minor issues arising from our cultural differences by always trying to understand each other. Leo was incredibly considerate, encouraging me to keep my Russian customs, while I did my best to embrace American traditions. The family gatherings for holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas were unfamiliar at first, but they soon became a cherished part of my life. His family truly accepted me as one of their own. For the first time, I felt the warmth of a real family. Calling them mom and dad was awkward at first, but their affection made it easy for my heart to open. Leo's mother often taught me how to cook American dishes. Natasha, you're such a beautiful daughter-in-law, she would say, and I would feel a sense of belonging I never dreamed of in Russia. 2 years after our wedding, I discovered I was pregnant with our first child. Leo and I cried tears of joy together. His family was ecstatic, as it would be their first grandchild. During my pregnancy, I had cravings for Russian food, and my mother-in-law researched recipes and cooked them for me. Her dedication moved me deeply. But then came a surprise. When I was 3 months pregnant, Alyssa announced that she was also pregnant and they weren't married yet. I was worried, knowing that having a child before marriage could be complicated, even in modern American culture. As a result, Alyssa and Michael had a hasty wedding, but they both looked incredibly happy. Michael's parents were initially shocked, but ultimately embraced the news. At Alyssa's wedding, as her older sister and an experienced daughter-in-law, I gave her all the advice I could. Alyssa, having a baby will change everything. But don't worry, I'm here for you. It felt miraculous that we were pregnant at the same time. During our difficult days back in Russia, who could have imagined that such happiness was waiting for us? Sometimes it all felt like a dream. My life in America, my loving husband, the child growing inside me, and my sister by my side, everything felt perfect. After our children were born, though motherhood was challenging, Leo was my constant support. He was a doting father, and his love for our child and his care for me never wavered. Alyssa and Michael had their baby around the same time, and we shared parenting tips and supported each other. Our children grew up together like siblings. Life in America wasn't always easy. There were times I felt homesick and moments when the language barrier was frustrating. But looking back, I know that coming here was the right decision. In a way, we were saved. We escaped that small grey city in Russia and started new lives in a bigger world. Today, holding my child, feeling my husband's love, and spending time with my sister's family, I am filled with gratitude. I sometimes think of my mother and father, and I hope that if they could see us now, they would be happy. But right here, right now, I am happy. I have learned what a true family island I have learned to love and be loved. It is not an exaggeration to say that I have been saved. And today, I am incredibly happy.